The line between disinformation and misinformation is not always an easy one to find.
Governments need to be willing to do things that are out of their historical perspective, or for the most part, it's really a war footing that we need to be on.
It can happen quickly. A Marshall-type plan, don't mean to say that exactly, but a Marshall plan that can go into effect can stimulate change very quickly.
The distrust relates to the health system more generally.
A step up from the part of the governments on enforcement actions against fake news.
I think a couple of things we have to consider are, even before this began, the anti-vaccine movement was very strong, and this is something specifically through social media that has spread.
Welcome to Event 201.
When I was a kid, the disaster we worried about most was a nuclear war. That's why we had a barrel like this down in our basement filled with cans of food and water. When the nuclear attack came, we were supposed to go downstairs, hunker down, and eat out of that barrel. Today, the greatest risk of global catastrophe doesn't look like this. Instead, it looks like this. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. Not missiles, but microbes. Now, part of the reason for this is that we have invested a huge amount in nuclear deterrence, but we've actually invested very little in a system to stop an epidemic. We're not ready for the next epidemic. The best lessons, I think, on how to get prepared are, again, what we do for war. For soldiers, we have full-time, waiting to go.
Fair use.
We have reserves that can scale us up to large numbers. NATO has a mobile unit that can deploy very rapidly. NATO does a lot of war games to check, are people well-trained? Do they understand about fuel and logistics and the same radio frequencies? So they are absolutely ready to go. So those are the kinds of things we need to deal with an epidemic. What are the key pieces? First is we need strong health systems in poor countries. That's where mothers can give birth safely, kids can get all their vaccines, but also where we'll see the outbreak very early on. We need a medical reserve corps, lots of people who've got the training and background who are ready to go with the expertise. And then we need to pair those medical people with the military, taking advantage of the military's ability to move fast, do logistics, and secure areas. We need to do simulations, germ games, not war games, so that we see where the holes are. The last time a germ game was done in the United States was back in 2001, and it didn't go so well. So far, the score is germs 1, people 0. Finally, we need lots of advanced R&D in areas of vaccines and diagnostics. There are some big breakthroughs, like adeno-associated virus, that could work very, very quickly. Now, I don't have an exact budget for what this would cost, but I'm quite sure it's very modest compared to the potential harm. The World Bank estimates that if we have a worldwide flu epidemic, global wealth will go down by over $3 trillion.
Fair use.
And we'd have millions and millions of deaths. These investments offer significant benefits beyond just being ready for the epidemic. The primary health care, the R&D, those things would reduce global health equity and make the world more just as well as more safe. So I think this should absolutely be a priority. There's no need to panic. We don't have to hoard cans of spaghetti or go down into the basement. But we need to get going, because time is not on our side. In fact, if there's one positive thing that can come out of the Ebola epidemic, it's that it can serve as an early warning, a wake-up call to get ready. If we start now, we can be ready for the next epidemic. Thank you.
Given, as you heard from the introduction, that I have been around for a while and have had the opportunity and the privilege and the pleasure of serving in 5 administrations, I thought I would bring that perspective to the topic today, is the issue of pandemic preparedness. And if there's one message that I want to leave with you today, based on my experience, and you'll see that in a moment, is that there is no question that there will be a challenge to the coming administration in the arena of infectious diseases, both chronic infectious diseases in the sense of already ongoing disease, and we have certainly a large burden of that, but also there will be a surprise outbreak. There will be a surprise outbreak. There will be a surprise outbreak. And I hope by the end of my relatively short presentation, you will understand why history, the history of the last 32 years that I've been the director of NIAID, will tell the next administration that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
And then, Mr. President, the other question I have for you,
Excuse me, we'll do it in a second. Let Mike, he has to go
May I just have one more thing? There's been some discussion about China and what they knew and when they knew it, and I've been very critical. We need to know immediately. The world is entitled to know. The Chinese government was the first to know of this risk to the world, and that puts a special obligation to make sure that the data gets to our scientists, our professionals. This is not about retribution. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise. Here. We're in a live exercise here. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. We need to make sure that even today the data sets that are available to every country, including data sets that are available to the Chinese Communist Party, are made available to the whole world.
Yes, one thing, Secretary of State Pompeo is extremely busy, so if you have any question for him right now, could you do that? Because you know what I'd like to do? I'd like him to go back to the State Department, or as they call it, the Deep State Department, if you don't mind. I'd like to have him go back and do his job. So does anybody have any question? Please.
Mr. Secretary, can I ask you?
Do you want to call somebody?
Yeah, how about you? Only for the Secretary.
The exemptions on work travel, can you define that?
I think as time goes forward, hopefully doctors and scientists will get a better handle on the whole situation. Fortunately, from what I understand, it is contagious, but the death rate is pretty low. So, yeah, I understand the fear.
Yeah, well, we can see you still have a cough. What do the doctors say about your own condition moving forward as we wrap this up?
Excuse me. Let me get some of that. They said, yeah, I'm fine. I got tested twice, negative both times. The cough, probably just nerves.
Yeah, being on TV.
Fair enough.
Die Charité in Mitte hat uns ins Virchow-Klinikum geschickt und gesagt, hier würden alle Berliner Corona-Fälle zusammenkommen und das zwischen 8 und 16 Uhr. Das heißt, die meiste Zeit über ist gar nichts los. Schauen wir mal hier an. Also die sind zwar da hinten in den Zelten, in den Zweien, die jetzt leer sind, aber was mich wundert, das ist doch nicht der Ausnahmezustand, der in den Medien beschrieben wird. Die Medien haben bereits am Wochenende über 1000 Corona-Infizierte für die Stadt Berlin gemeldet. Wir sind kurz nach 20 Uhr hierher gekommen und nichts los, niemand da. Virchow-Klinikum Berlin. Das Einzige, was hier noch zu sehen ist, ist das, bei den Stühlen soll man nicht zusammensitzen. Aber ansonsten ist hier nicht wirklich was festzustellen. Also ich habe einige Mitarbeiter hier im Vertrauen sprechen können. Die haben gesagt, also das, was in den Medien berichtet wird, das können sie nicht nachvollziehen. Dass sich das nicht deckt mit dem, was hier tagtäglich passiert. Ich meine, ich kenne Krankenhäuser in Notsituationen, zum Beispiel in Libyen und Syrien, übervoll mit Verletzten des Krieges, ja, oder in Venezuela, übervoll mit Leuten, die irgendwelche Mangelerscheinungen haben. Aber hier ist ja gar nichts los. Ich habe auch gefragt, ja, wieso, das sieht doch nicht aus wie ein Katastrophenfall. Und da sagte einer der Mitarbeiter, die übrigens die waren alle sehr kritisch gegenüber den Medien hier. Das ist alles übertrieben und so. Aber er sagte, ja, das ist kein Katastrophenfall. Katastrophenfall hatten wir letztmalig zum Beispiel, als der LKW in den Breitscheidplatz Weihnachtsmarkt gerast ist. Und da waren dann die Kliniken auch gesperrt für jeden Publikumsverkehr, weil da wirklich Anspannung war und Vorsicht geboten.
So when were you told a fatality happened? Because the homeless man that we are told that just died, we've just seen the police take him away to the hospital. I'm filming this now. The police were you're in your communal area, my building. And you're lying to us, spreading fear, telling us that this man died. And he's just been down there and saw that he is not dead. He has just been taken to the hospital by the police. He spoke to both the police and the homeless man. The man was a bit drunk. He asked him if he was okay and he was fine. This was 5 to 10 minutes ago. And now you're coming up here, spreading lies and fear and telling me this man is dead and he is not dead. This man is not dead. Take them letters, take them somewhere else because that man is not dead. I've been feeding that man.
Wait.
He's lying.
What you can do is stop putting it. No, wait. We can stop putting it on because he's not dead.
Until you find out if this man's really dead and prove that, then you need to stop putting these letters on there.
Can I ask you to stop filming?
Can I ask your name?
I'm from One Housing.
You're from One Housing. Can I ask your name? When they put a letter under your door saying the man's dead, he's not dead, he's fine. The man is absolutely fine. The man's fine. He's putting letters under our door saying the man's dead. The man's not dead. He just saw him 5 minutes ago being taken by the police. Now, these are coming here in their little suits telling us this man's dead, and this man is not dead. We have just seen the police take him to the hospital 5 minutes ago. You are liars. You are spreading fear for no reason. No one died in this building today. Nobody died.
Can you let us respond?
Yeah, I have let you respond and you've stood there and lied. You have?
Can you stop filming?
Okay, no. You're in my building outside my door causing fear amongst my community. Okay, go on. So show me who died.
Okay.
It's legal. I'm legally allowed
Let me
to.
speak, please.
Go for it. Go on. I did.
No, you didn't. Can you stop filming as well?
No, go on.
Right, in that case, no. So
I can film. Go on. I'd like the answer.
We're responding based on a report we had earlier.
What time did you get this report? Can I just ask?
About a couple of hours ago.
A couple of hours ago, but we've literally saw this man taken away 10 minutes ago, healthy.
That's fine. Now that you've told us that, we will go on.
Can I ask who gave you the report that this man was dead?
It's fed from One Housing.
From One Housing. One Housing told you that this man was dead, so you came round in your suits to spread fear amongst. Look at them, children in there, and you're spreading fear amongst all of.
Alone and in intensive care. Only some of them don't get to leave alive, wheeled away like so many others. The New York governor today begged President Trump to send help now, saying he'd been forced to buy ventilators from China because it was like bidding on eBay to secure enough.
Hi, I'm Mike Kramer, Director of the Rush Nurse Anesthesia Program and co-director of the Rush Center for Clinical Skills in Simulation, our new state-of-the-art simulation laboratory. I'm happy to welcome you to the center, and with the completion of the first phase of construction, our clinicians and students have access to a great new simulation training environment, all in one location. Simulation training is an integral tool for Rush University's academic programs and staff training. The new lab significantly increases the numbers of students and clinicians we can serve, more than tripling the number of trainees we can accommodate at any one time. Each training environment has its own control room where staff can execute a variety of treatment scenarios. Operating rooms in the simulation lab are designed to mimic the ORs in the tower, so students and physicians feel more comfortable once they're in real-life situations. Lifelike dummies have pulses, bleed, breathe, and even deliver babies. A video recording system will allow staff and peers to review simulations and evaluate trainees. Debriefing rooms allow students and faculty to review training sessions. The lab closely integrates university and clinical staff. It will also be used by our colleagues at Rush Oak Park Hospital and John H. Stroger Jr. Hospital of Cook County, as well as for military training. But this is only the beginning. The final phase of construction, scheduled for completion in 2016, will include 10 standardized patient examination rooms and additional high-fidelity simulation space, all with the purpose of keeping our students and clinicians as sharp as they can be.
So it's almost like when you talk about the need to accelerate testing, the immediate need is for testing for the virus. But is it possible that in a few months' time that there's going to be this growing need to test for these antibodies in people, i.e. to see if someone had the disease and recovered, maybe they didn't even know they had it? Because you could picture this growing worldwide force of heroes, let's call them heroes, who've been through this experience and have a lot to offer the world. Maybe they can offer, like blood donation, serum donation, but also other tasks. Like if you've got overwhelmed healthcare systems, presumably there are kind of community health worker type tasks that people could be trained to do to relieve the pressure there, if we knew that they were effectively immune.
Yes, until we came up with the self-swab and showed FDA that that's equivalent, we were thinking the people who might be able to man those kiosks would be the recovered patients. Now, we don't want to have a lot of recovered people. To be clear, we're trying through the shutdown in the United States to not get to 1% of the population infected. We're well below that today, but with exponentiation, you could get past that 3 million. I believe we will be able to avoid that with the having this economic pain. Eventually, what we'll have to have is certificates of who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person, because you don't want people moving around the world where you'll have some countries that won't have it under control. Sadly, you don't want to completely block off the ability for those people to go there and come back and move around.
Politics can be pretty ugly at times.
Do you think he'll be remembered primarily for his achievements in domestic policy or on the international?
I think a combination. I think when he stood there in Berlin and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall," a lot of his critics in this country were going crazy, wringing their hands. This is outrageous rhetoric. This is no way to bring about relations with the Soviet Union, getting them on a better, higher plane. And sure enough, he and Gorbachev hit it off very well and moved the process forward. So he used the term evil empire. And some of the liberals in New York were wringing their hands and going crazy. "Oh, this is terrible. This is the end of everything. He doesn't know how to conduct foreign affairs." And sure enough, a lot happened on his watch that was very, very positive towards a new world order, towards a peace. And so I think
we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Paradoxically, this moment of crisis is also one of great opportunity. And I've been here quite often.
You mean to this table?
At this table. And excessive optimism is not my distinguishing trait.
No, it's not.
But
so there is excessive optimism now?
No, I don't think there's excessive optimism.
Okay, well, moderate optimism.
I think that when the new administration assesses the position in which it finds itself, it will see huge crises and terrible problems. But it can, I could see that it sees a glimmer in which it could construct an international system out of it. If you look back to the end of the Second World War, many people now think that the period between 1945 and 1950 was in many ways the most creative period or one of the most creative periods of American foreign policy. But it started with chaos and fear of Russian invasion of Europe and governments that were very weak and people who were very
So
poor.
the United Nations came out of that, the Marshall Plan came out of that.
That's right, and NATO
came out of
it.
that, and later the Truman Doctrine came out of that later.
Right.
There is opportunity in the crisis because, repeat it for me, because?
I think because
you never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
We are experiencing an unprecedented, perhaps, economic crisis that has to be dealt with and dealt with rapidly.
And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
when you look at the medium-term interests and the long-term interests of the key players, India, China, Russia, America, Europe, they really are importantly parallel. That we should not look at this current situation from a posture of being paralyzed by the symptoms of crisis.
Fair enough. Within the crisis, there is opportunity. But when you talk about a new structure, I'm not sure you've used the term New World Order. I mean, what is it? Is it simply a world order that's defined by new interest and new mutuality of interest?
Well, that's certainly how you have to start. And I know the view that you start by converting the whole world to our political philosophy. In this period, when really a new world order can be created, it's a great opportunity. It isn't just...
Storm started, something happened, his face, his eyes were different.
By the time they tried to evacuate the cities, it was already too late. The infection was everywhere.
The virus is harvesting. What do you mean 8, 7, and 3? Begin life in the lab of the first war with vaccines. Millions died in the first week of the pandemic dreams. We are the deep black death, smallpox, mutated disease. Flu shot propaganda for all population and troops. Avoid the plague. It might have sneaked into the room. It's now we're born with firestorms signal our doom. The dead returns with the pissed off zombie moves. The sprinkler system equipped with AUAG, where they round up survivors in the cold facility. Watch the process of terror from the hill near the stream. I remain in the gas mask, I still filter my water clean. This isn't past tense, on the plague of bad things couldn't be eradicated like smallpox in action. Avian influenza where the jet stream is how it happens. 2020 combined with coronavirus, body stacking.
The world is now at the start of the influenza pandemic. It started as rioting. It was in the street outside. It was coming through your windows. Sequence the virus and determine its origin. It was a virus. Something in the blood. A virus which has been engineered at genetic level to be helpful rather than harmful.
The city's sick like disease and it can't be cured. Few that remain, their brain stained with the bloodshed. When the smoke screens fade, that disease, you feel a burning sensation. Nothing remains. The city's sick like disease and it can't be cured. Few that remain, their brain stained with the bloodshed. When the smoke screens fade, that disease, you feel a burning sensation.
You have to act fast. Grab your gas mask. Bad disaster has passed. Anarchy, cataclysm. Stand guard, please. Blast your big guns. Havoc's begun. Viral outbreak. Tragic things done. Crowds renounce faith. Our church's horror witness. Broke the hopes of optimistic. Scope is post-apocalyptic. Known as harsh and vicious. Gross and darker. Dough and darts blow apart the wicked. Fools know I'm sadistic. Cold, my aura is sick. Soldiers start resistance. Enemy troops in NBC suits. We shoot, then we regroup. Conquer weak with armored fleet. Bomb the streets with Dr. Creep.
The scientific criteria for an influenza pandemic have been met. You didn't need a doctor to tell you that. This virus is human. Radio stopped broadcasting. There were reports of infection in Paris and New York. The army blockades were overrun.
What scientists know about this latest strain?
Decided to raise the level of influenza pandemic alert.
The city's sick like disease and it can't be cured. Few that remain, their brain stained with the bloodshed. When the smoke screens fade, that disease, you feel a burning sensation. Nothing remains. The city's sick like disease and it can't be cured. Few that remain, their brain stained with the bloodshed. When the smoke screens fade, that disease.
gas mask?
Sure.
What do you want to look at?